The human commander stood in the wreckage of what used to be his fleet, and somehow, impossibly, he was smiling. I should explain something first. My name is Vextari, and I have been observing human military operations for the Galactic Council for approximately 3 solar cycles now. In that time, I have catalogued 17 different ways humans have violated standard tactical doctrine, 42 instances of them ignoring direct orders from superior civilizations, and exactly 1,307 moments where I thought to myself, these creatures are absolutely insane. This moment, this was number 1,308. Commander Jack Reeves, late of the Terran Expeditionary Force, walked through the smoking remains of the battle station with the casual confidence of someone heading to a leisure facility rather than surveying the obliteration of half his fighting force. Behind him, what remained of his troops, maybe 2,000 soldiers out of an original force of 4,000, sat among the debris looking like they'd been chewed up and spat out by a particularly angry void beast. They had been. The Krath'nar don't do mercy. They are a species that evolved on a world where the very atmosphere tries to kill you every morning before breakfast. When the Council hired them as enforcers, we thought we were getting the ultimate deterrent. What we got was a species so aggressively violent that they made human action vids look like educational programs for younglings. And they had just finished ripping through Reeves's forces like they were made of tissue paper. Commander, I transmitted through my translation device, trying to keep the confusion out of my vocal harmonics. Your casualty reports indicate catastrophic losses. Standard protocol suggests immediate withdrawal and regrouping with allied forces. Reeves looked up at me. Actually looked up, because humans are absurdly short compared to my species, and grinned. That facial expression where they show their teeth. I'd learned it wasn't a threat display, though it absolutely should be. Vex, buddy, he said using that irritating nickname humans insist on creating for everyone they meet. You are thinking about this all wrong. I am thinking about it correctly, I replied, my translator perhaps adding a bit too much exasperation to the output. You have lost 50% of your combat effectiveness. The Krath'nar fleet is regrouping for another assault. Mathematical probability suggests your complete annihilation within the next solar hour. Yeah, see, that's where you are making your first mistake, Reeves said, pulling out one of those chemical stimulant containers humans call coffee. He took a long drink, grimaced because it was apparently cold, and continued. You are assuming I brought these people here to fight conventionally. That made me pause. My sensory stalks twitched involuntarily, a sign of confusion among my people. Commander, you engaged in a direct fleet battle against numerically and technologically superior forces. That is the definition of conventional warfare. Nope, he said it so casually, so confidently that I felt my internal temperature rise by 2 degrees. A stress response. That was the screening process. The what? Reeves gestured to the survivors around us. A woman named Lieutenant Torres was using a medical kit on a soldier with a plasma burn across his torso. Another human, Sergeant Willis, was literally eating what appeared to be a preserved food ration while sitting on a chunk of destroyed bulkhead. A third, whose name I hadn't caught, was laughing. Actually laughing at something another soldier had said. These people, Reeves said, and there was something in his voice now, something that made my primary hearing organs focus entirely on him. These 2,000 right here. They just survived something that should have killed them. The Krath'nar threw everything at us. Plasma weapons, kinetic strikes, those creepy biological missiles they like so much. And these folks, they adapted, they improvised, they kept fighting even when their weapons were melting in their hands. That is admittedly impressive. I conceded. However, impressive corpses provide little tactical advantage. Who said anything about corpses? That's when things got weird. Well, weirder. Humans have this saying about out of the frying pan and into the fire, which made no sense to me until I researched their cooking methods and realized they are metaphorically burning their metaphors. But I digress. Reeves pulled out a datapad and started walking toward the center of the destroyed station. I followed because, honestly, what else was I going to do? The Council had assigned me to document human military operations, and if I was going to die horribly, I might as well have comprehensive notes. 3 years ago, Reeves began, and I could tell this was going to be one of those human stories that took forever to get to the point. The Terran Science Division discovered something interesting in the ruins on Kepler Station, the abandoned research facility. The very same. Turns out the previous occupants, whoever they were, they'd been working on something revolutionary. cellular regeneration, but not the slow, natural kind. The instantaneous, impossible kind. My sensory stalks perked up. You are referring to the Lazarus Protocol rumors. Not rumors, Reeves said, stopping at a door that somehow remained intact despite the surrounding devastation. He pressed his palm against the access panel and it hissed open, revealing a laboratory that looked far too pristine given the chaos outside. Very, very real. Inside the lab, rows of cylindrical chambers lined the walls, each filled with a translucent blue fluid that seemed to glow with its own internal light. Tech stations surrounded each chamber, displaying information that scrolled too fast for me to process. The previous civilization figured out how to rewrite biological programming at a fundamental level, Reeves continued, running his hand along one of the chambers. They found a way to trigger evolutionary adaptation in real time, to force a living organism to become exactly what it needed to be to survive. That's impossible, I said automatically. Evolutionary processes require generations, not moments. Yeah. Well, tell that to the folks who built this place. They managed it. Problem was, they disappeared before they could perfect it. The survival rate of the early trials was, let's say, suboptimal. Define suboptimal. About 3%. I felt my chromatophores shift to a pale blue, my species' equivalent of going white with shock. That's not suboptimal. That's genocidal. Was genocidal, Reeves corrected, and that smile was back. That absolutely unhinged human smile that I was beginning to associate with terrible ideas. We have been working on it, running simulations, adjusting the algorithms, testing on willing volunteers who knew the risks, and the survival rate now. Well, that's the thing. We got it up to about 40% in controlled conditions. Pretty good, right? But here's where it gets interesting. We noticed something in the data. The survival rate batched and random, it correlated directly with stress tolerance, adaptability under pressure, and exposure to extreme survival situations. I was beginning to understand, and I desperately wished I wasn't. You used the battle as a selection process, I said, my translator probably adding appropriate horror to my tone. You deliberately engaged a superior force knowing you would lose half your people not as a military objective, but as a biological screening procedure. Screening, testing, call it what you want, Reeves said with a shrug that seemed far too casual for someone admitting to using his own troops as experimental subjects. The point is, everyone who survived that engagement out there, they have proven they have exactly the qualities that increase the success rate of the protocol. Increase it to what? Our models suggest somewhere between 70 and 85% for pre-selected candidates. That's acceptable odd. Acceptable. Commander, that still means 15 to 30% of your remaining forces will die screaming in those chambers. Yeah, Reeves said quietly, and for the first time I saw something other than confident insanity in his eyes. Sadness, maybe. Regret. I know. That's why every single one of them volunteered. They what? He activated a holographic display and suddenly I was watching recorded messages. Dozens of them. Hundreds. The faces of the soldiers outside recording their consent, their understanding of the risks, their willingness to proceed anyway. Lieutenant Torres appeared first. If this works, we can hit back. Really hit back. Not just survive but win. I'm in. Sergeant Willis was next, grinning around a mouthful of food even in his pre-recorded message. My grandkids back on Earth. They deserve a galaxy where the Krath'nar aren't the monsters under the bed. Let's do this. One after another, every survivor had recorded their consent. Every single one knew this was coming. You planned this from the start, I said, and it wasn't a question. The moment the Krath'nar ignored the Council's peace treaty and started glassing colony worlds, yeah.
We started planning.
Reeves closed the display. Conventional warfare isn't working. They are too strong, too numerous, too spread out. We needed an edge, something they couldn't predict or counter. So you decided to turn your soldiers into something else entirely, not something else. Something more. He moved to a control console and started typing commands. The protocol doesn't change who they are. It just unlocks what human biology is capable of when you remove all the limiters evolution put in place for safety reasons. And what exactly is human biology capable of? Reeves looked at me and there was something in his expression that sent a chill through my exoskeleton, a primal recognition that I was looking at a predator species that had decided to stop pretending otherwise. Let's find out, he said. The activation sequence began with a low hum that I felt in my bone analogs before I heard it. The chambers started to fill with that glowing blue fluid, pumped in from reservoirs I hadn't noticed beneath the floor. Reeves opened the laboratory doors, and the survivors outside began filing in. No hesitation, no fear, just grim determination. Lieutenant Torres was first. She nodded to Reeves, stripped off her damaged armor, and stepped into the nearest chamber wearing only a thin medical garment. The fluid rose around her, and she closed her eyes as the machinery engaged. "What happens now?" I asked, unable to look away. "Now." The protocol reads their genetic structure, identifies inefficiencies, weaknesses, biological limitations that prevent optimal performance. Then it rewrites everything: bone density, muscle fiber composition, neural pathway efficiency, healing capability, sensory processing, pain tolerance. The works, all at once, all at once. It takes about 6 hours. For 5 hours and 59 minutes, they will be in the most agonizing pain a biological organism can experience, as every cell in their body simultaneously dies and is reborn. Then, assuming they survive, they wake up. One by one, the survivors entered the chambers. I watched Sergeant Willis crack jokes right up until the fluid covered his mouth. I saw soldiers hug each other before separation, saw them grip the handles inside their chambers with white-knuckle determination. 2,000 chambers, 2,000 volunteers, and all I could do was watch. "The Krath'nar fleet will return soon," I said, grasping for some kind of rational concern to focus on instead of the horror show beginning in front of me. 6 hours is longer than we have. "Yeah, about that." Reeves pulled up a tactical display showing the surrounding space. Red icons representing enemy ships were indeed moving back toward our position. That's why I had the engineering teams rig the station's remaining weapons systems to automated defense. It won't stop them, but it will slow them down. We need maybe 4 hours of actual protection. The last 2 hours? The first ones to wake up can help defend the others. You are assuming they will be combat-ready immediately after undergoing complete biological reconstruction. Vex, buddy. I'm betting everything on it. The chambers sealed completely now, the figures inside becoming indistinct shapes in the glowing fluid. Monitors around each chamber displayed vital signs, genetic sequencing data, neural activity. I didn't understand most of it, but I understood enough to know that what I was witnessing wasn't just medical science, it was biological alchemy. "Why are you telling me all of this?" I asked suddenly. "You could have kept me outside, hidden this from the council, from everyone." Reeves was quiet for a long moment, staring at the chambers containing his people. "Because someone needs to know what happened here. If this goes wrong, if they all die, the council needs to know we tried, that we didn't just roll over and accept extinction." He turned to look at me. "And if it goes right, you need to know what's coming. What humanity is about to become. A warning. An explanation," he corrected. "The Krath'nar started this war thinking we were soft, easy prey. They are about to learn why you don't hunt predators on their own world. This station is hardly Earth. Earth's not a place," Reeves said, and there was something fierce in his voice now, something that made me instinctively step back. "It's a mindset. It's the understanding that when you have nothing left to lose, when your back is against the wall, when the universe itself is trying to kill you, you don't give up. You adapt, you evolve, you become the thing that scares the monsters." The first chamber started to convulse. Lieutenant Torres. Her vital signs on the monitor were doing things that should have been impossible. Her heart rate climbed to levels that should have caused cardiac failure, then somehow stabilized. Her bone density readings were increasing in real time, her muscle mass expanding, her neural activity patterns reorganizing into configurations I'd never seen. And she was screaming. Even through the fluid, through the chamber walls, I could hear her screaming. "This is torture," I said, unable to keep the accusation from my voice. "This is evolution," Reeves replied. "And evolution is violent." More chambers started showing similar reactions. Vital signs spiking, bodies changing, screams that would haunt my auditory memory for the rest of my life. I wanted to look away, wanted to retreat to my observation post and pretend I'd never seen this, but I couldn't. The council needed to know, someone needed to witness. Hours passed like centuries. The automated defenses engaged the returning Krath'nar fleet, weapons firing in pre-programmed patterns designed by humans who knew they wouldn't be there to operate them manually. Explosions lit up the void outside, visible through the laboratory's reinforced viewports. Reeves monitored everything. The chambers, the battle, the countdown. His face was stone, unreadable, but his hands shook slightly when he thought I wasn't looking. 4 hours in, the first casualty alarm sounded. Chamber 73. A soldier named Private Ortega. His vital signs flatlined, his body unable to survive the transition. The chamber drained automatically, preserving his remains for later burial if there was a later. First one, Reeves said quietly, marking something on his datapad. Chamber 112 went next, then Chamber 245. The failures came sporadically, randomly, each one announced by an alarm that made Reeves flinch but didn't stop him from maintaining his vigil. By the 5-hour mark, we'd lost 327 people, 18% mortality rate, Reeves said, doing the math instantly. Better than projected. Those are people, not statistics, I snapped, my translator adding appropriate anger. They are both, he replied, and there was steel in his voice now. They are people who chose to become statistics because statistics matter when you are trying to save a species. Every death here hurts, but every survival means a chance, and I will take that trade. The first chamber started to drain. Lieutenant Torres. The fluid level dropped, revealing her form, and I felt my sensory stalks retract in instinctive shock. She looked similar to before, but different in ways I couldn't immediately quantify. Her musculature was more defined. Her skin had taken on a faint metallic sheen. Her eyes, when they opened, glowed with a soft blue light that matched the protocol fluid. The chamber opened, and she stepped out, steady and strong, no disorientation, no weakness. She looked at her hands, flexed her fingers, and smiled. "Commander," she said, and her voice had changed too, deeper, resonant, carrying undertones I could feel in my chest cavity. "It worked. How do you feel?" She paused, considering, like I could tear through a bulkhead with my bare hands, like I can hear your heartbeat from across the room, like every sense, every ability I had before just got multiplied by a factor of 10. She looked at Reeves, and there was wonder in her expression. "It actually worked." "It dressed, Lieutenant. We have got incoming hostiles and about 1,600 people still in chambers who need protecting." Torres nodded, moving to a storage locker and pulling out fresh combat gear. I watched in fascination as she moved. There was a precision to her actions now, an efficiency that went beyond training into something instinctual. More chambers started draining. Sergeant Willis emerged, laughing because of course he was, flexing arms that looked like they could bend steel. A corporal named Jenkins, who could apparently now see into the infrared spectrum based on her delighted exclamations. A private whose name I never learned, who demonstrated his enhanced reflexes by catching a dropped tool before it hit the ground, moving so fast my eyes couldn't track it. One by one, two by two, then in groups of 10 and 20, the survivors emerged from their chambers. Not all of them. The casualty count climbed to 412 by the time the last chamber drained. But those who made it, those who survived the protocol, they were magnificent and terrifying. Reeves distributed weapons, standard human firearms that suddenly looked like toys in the hands of these enhanced soldiers. But Torres picked up a rifle and immediately started modifying it, her hands moving with mechanical precision as she adjusted the power settings, the firing rate, the targeting systems. "The protocol doesn't just enhance physical capabilities," Reeves explained, watching his transformed troops prep for battle. "It optimizes neural processing too. They are smarter, faster thinkers, better at pattern recognition and problem-solving under pressure." "You have created super soldiers," I said. "We have created survivors," he corrected. "There's a difference." The Krath'nar broke through the automated defenses approximately 20 minutes after the last chamber drained. Their boarding pods slammed into the station's hull, cutting through barriers with molecular disruption fields. Standard invasion tactics, overwhelm with numbers, use their natural physical advantages, kill everything that moves. They'd done it to 17 human colonies already. This time was different. The first Krath'nar squad breached into a corridor where Lieutenant Torres and her team were waiting. The aliens were massive, 3 meters tall, armored carapaces that could shrug off most conventional weapons, claws that could slice through steel, and a battle fury that made them nearly unstoppable. Torres moved first, faster than the Krath'nar could track, her rifle firing bursts that found weak points in alien armor with impossible precision. But it wasn't just her shooting. It was her movement, flowing like liquid between cover points, anticipating enemy fire before it happened. Sergeant Willis charged one of the Krath'nar directly, and I thought he'd lost his mind until he ducked under its claw swipe, grabbed its lower leg, and actually lifted the 3-meter alien off its feet before slamming it into a bulkhead hard enough to crack the metal. The Krath'nar that had terrorized human colonies, that had been considered the ultimate ground fighters in the galaxy, were being torn apart by soldiers who'd been regular humans just hours before. "This is impossible," I transmitted, watching the battle through security feeds. "Define impossible," Reeves said, and he was smiling again, that terrible human smile, "because it looks pretty damn possible from where I'm standing." The battle raged through the station. More Krath'nar poured in, and despite their enhanced abilities, the humans took casualties. The protocol made them better, not invincible. I watched a soldier take a claw through the chest and go down, watched another get caught in plasma fire. But for every human that fell, 10 Krath'nar died. "They are learning," Reeves observed, watching his troops adapt their tactics in real time. "Every encounter they are getting better, processing combat data, optimizing their approach. The protocol didn't just enhance what they were, it gave them the ability to keep enhancing, keep adapting. You have turned them into living weapons. I have given them the tools to survive," he said firmly. "What they do with those tools, that's up to them." The Krath'nar commander apparently realized something was very wrong because the alien forces started to withdraw, pulling back to their ships, but the enhanced humans didn't let them go easy. They pursued, fighting through boarding pods, securing captured Krath'nar vessels. By the time the last enemy ship retreated from the station, we'd held, impossibly, incredibly, we'd held. The cost was written in the bodies scattered through the corridors. 412 dead from the protocol. Another 238 fallen in combat. Nearly a third of Reeves' force gone. But the survivors? They stood among the wreckage, breathing heavy, covered in blood, both red and alien green, and they were victorious. "Vex," Reeves said, finding me in the command center where I'd been documenting everything. "I need you to send a message to the Council." "What message?" He gestured to the survivors gathering in the main bay, to the enhanced soldiers who'd just proven that humanity refused to die quietly. "Tell them the war just changed. Tell them humanity isn't accepting extinction. And tell them," he paused, that fierce determination in his eyes again, "tell them we are just getting started." I looked at the humans, at what they'd become, at what they'd sacrificed to get here, and I understood that the galaxy had fundamentally shifted in the last 6 hours. The Krath'nar had pushed humanity to the edge, forced them to choose between extinction and evolution. Humanity chose evolution, and the universe was about to learn why that was a terrible mistake on the Krath'nar's part. "I will send your message," I said finally, "though I suspect by the time the Council receives it, you will have already proven your point." Reeves smiled. "Yeah, probably. But documentation matters, right?" "Documentation matters," I agreed. As I began compiling my report, watching the enhanced humans tend to their wounded and honor their dead, I couldn't help but wonder what came next. If this was humanity's response to losing half an army, what would they do when they were at full strength? I had a feeling the galaxy was about to find out, and I wasn't sure anyone was ready for that answer. The war had changed indeed, and somewhere in the void, the Krath'nar fleet was about to learn what happens when you pick a fight with a species that responds to casualties by becoming immortal. 3 weeks after the protocol activation, the Krath'nar High Command made their biggest mistake yet. They assumed the battle at the station was an isolated incident. I know this because I intercepted their strategic communications. Part of my job as a Council observer involves monitoring all military transmissions in this sector, and the Krath'nar weren't exactly being subtle about their plans. They designated Commander Reeves and his enhanced forces as a containment priority, which in Krath'nar military doctrine translates roughly to ignore them until they become a real problem. Spoiler alert, they were already a real problem. I was aboard the human vessel Defiance, documenting what Reeves was now calling Phase 2 of his absolutely unhinged plan to win an unwinnable war. The ship itself had been modified, reinforced with salvaged Krath'nar armor plating, and fitted with weapons systems that technically violated 3 different Council regulations. Reeves had politely suggested I not include those particular details in my official reports. I told him I'd consider it, which we both knew meant no. Observer Vexthari, Lieutenant Torres said, finding me in the observation deck where I'd been reviewing footage from the station battle. "Commander wants you in the briefing room." I noticed she didn't walk anymore. Not exactly. She moved with this liquid efficiency, every step optimized for balance and speed. It was like watching a biological machine that had somehow retained its organic nature while transcending its limitations. Also, she could apparently hear me thinking from 3 corridors away based on how she smiled. "I cannot actually hear your thoughts," she said, answering my unspoken concern. "But your chromatophores shift color when you are uncomfortable, and you have been pale blue since I entered the room. The protocol enhanced your observational capabilities as well." "Everything got enhanced," she replied. "Some things more than others. Come on, you don't want to miss this briefing. Jack's about to propose something that will probably give you material for a whole new report category." She was right. I didn't want to miss it. Even though every instinct I had was screaming that I should request immediate extraction and let someone else document humanity's descent into beautiful, terrifying madness. The briefing room was packed with enhanced soldiers, all of them carrying themselves with that same efficient grace that Torres displayed. Sergeant Willis was there, naturally eating something that smelled like it could strip paint off bulkheads. A woman named Captain Huang was reviewing tactical displays with the kind of focus that suggested she was processing multiple data streams simultaneously. And there was Reeves standing at the head of the room, looking remarkably calm for someone about to brief an attack plan against an enemy that outgunned humanity by approximately 40-1. "All right, people, let's get started," Reeves announced, and the room immediately fell silent. 3 weeks ago, we survived what should have killed us. We turned ourselves into something new, something the Krath'nar weren't prepared for. And since then, we have been running reconnaissance operations, gathering intelligence, and generally making ourselves a nuisance to their outer patrol routes. "Nuisance is putting it mildly, sir," Willis interjected around a mouthful of food. "We have disabled 7 patrol groups and hijacked enough of their equipment to outfit a small army. Which brings me to Phase 2, Reeves continued, activating a holographic display that showed the Krath'nar fleet positions across the sector. The Council strategy has been defensive, holding territory, trying to minimize losses. It's logical, it's safe, and it's getting us absolutely nowhere." I felt obligated to speak up. "The Council strategy is designed to preserve life while seeking diplomatic solutions. Aggressive tactics would only escalate the conflict." "Vex, buddy. The conflict is already escalated," Reeves said, not unkindly. "The Krath'nar have glassed 17 human colonies. They have ignored every diplomatic overture, violated every ceasefire, and made it very clear they see this as an extermination campaign, not a territorial dispute." He wasn't wrong. I'd read the reports, watched the surveillance footage. The Krath'nar weren't interested in conquest. They wanted elimination. Something about humans triggered a deep instinctual aggression in their species, though the xenopsychology reports couldn't determine exactly why. "So what are you proposing?" I asked, though I suspected I already knew. "We are going on a fence," Reeves said, and the enhanced soldiers in the room leaned forward as one, hungry for details. "Specifically, we are going to hit their command station at Theta Proxima." The room erupted in excited murmuring. I felt my chromatophores shift to a bright yellow, which in my species indicates extreme alarm. "Commander, that station is defended by approximately 50,000 Krath'nar warriors, orbital defense platforms, and a fleet contingent of at least 30 capital ships. You have 1,600 enhanced soldiers and 1 modified cruiser." 1,632, actually, Torres corrected. "We picked up some volunteers from the surviving garrison at Outpost Kepler." "My point stands. This is suicidal." "It would be," Reeves agreed, "if we were planning a conventional assault. But we are not. We are going to do what humans do best. We are going to cheat." He expanded the holographic display, showing detailed schematics of the Krath'nar command station. I recognized some of the data from Council intelligence archives, but other information was clearly new, gathered through methods I probably didn't want to know about. "The station's shields operate on a rotating frequency pattern," Captain Huang explained, taking over the briefing. "Standard defensive doctrine for Krath'nar installations. The frequency changes every 30 seconds, making it impossible to maintain a sustained bombardment on any single frequency. Impossible for conventional targeting systems," Willis added, grinning. "But not so impossible for enhanced humans with reaction times measured in milliseconds and processing capabilities that can track frequency shifts in real time." I was beginning to see their plan, and it was absolutely insane. You are going to manually adjust your weapons fire to match the shield frequencies as they change, I said slowly, while simultaneously piloting strike craft through defensive fire, navigating an asteroid field the Krath'nar use as a natural barrier, and coordinating attacks across multiple vectors to prevent their targeting computers from locking onto you. See? You are getting it, Reeves said cheerfully. That requires a level of coordination and precision that even enhanced humans cannot possibly maintain for the duration of an extended assault. Torres smiled, and there was something predatory in that expression. Observer, you are still thinking of us as enhanced humans. We are not. We are something new. The protocol didn't just make us faster or stronger. It networked our neural patterns. When we are in combat together, we can share tactical data, coordinate movements, and process information as a collective without losing our individual autonomy. You have become a hive mind. Not exactly, she replied. More like a distributed processing network. We are still individuals, still make our own choices. But in combat situations, we can function as a unified tactical organism. Every soldier sees what every other soldier sees, knows what they know, anticipates what they will do. That's horrifying, I said honestly. That's evolution, Reeves countered, using that phrase again. Now let's go over the operational details. We launch in 6 hours. The next 6 hours were a blur of activity that I barely understood. Enhanced soldiers moved through the ship performing pre-combat checks with mechanical precision, weapons were calibrated, strike craft were prepped, and everyone seemed to be having casual conversations about tactics that would make Council military strategists weep. I cornered Reeves in the armory, where he was personally inspecting ammunition loadouts. Commander, I must formally object to this operation. The risk of total loss is unacceptably high. Noted and logged, he said without looking up from a rocket launcher he was examining. Anything else? Why are you doing this? You have already proven the protocol works, proven that enhanced humans can hold against Krath'nar forces. You could request reinforcements, expand the program, build a proper army instead of risking everything on a single desperate attack. Now he looked at me and there was something tired in his eyes, something worn. Because every day we wait, more colonies die. Because the Krath'nar won't stop, won't negotiate, won't do anything except kill until there are no humans left to kill. And because these people, he gestured to the enhanced soldiers working around us, they didn't survive the protocol just to hide behind defensive lines and hope someone else solves the problem. So you are going to solve it by attacking their command structure with insufficient forces. I'm going to solve it by hitting them so hard, so fast, so unexpectedly that they will realize humanity isn't prey anymore. We are predators. And predators don't cower, they hunt. There was no arguing with that logic, partially because it wasn't really logic at all. It was pure human stubbornness, wrapped in military doctrine and seasoned with desperation. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Theta Proxima system exactly 6 hours later. Immediately, every sensor on the ship started screaming warnings about the Krath'nar presence. The station was enormous. A sprawling structure that looked like someone had taken a city and launched it into orbit. Around it, the defensive fleet patrolled in standard formation patterns, confident in their superiority. All strike teams, this is Commander Reeves. Final equipment checks, then launch on my mark. His voice came through the ship's communication system, calm and measured like he was ordering coffee instead of initiating a suicide mission. I positioned myself in the observation deck where I could monitor the battle without getting in anyone's way. My recording equipment was active, documenting everything for the Council. If this went wrong, at least there would be evidence of what happened, some record of humanity's last stand. Strike teams away, Torres reported, and through the viewport I watched as dozens of small craft launched from the Defiance, each piloted by enhanced humans who were about to attempt the impossible. The Krath'nar defensive network detected them immediately. Automated weapons platforms swiveled to track the incoming craft, computing firing solutions and preparing to obliterate the attackers. Then the human pilots started moving. I have seen a lot of combat footage in my time as an observer. I have watched fleet battles involving thousands of ships, ground assaults with millions of combatants, and strategic maneuvers that took months to execute. But I'd never seen anything like this. The enhanced humans flew their strike craft like the vehicles were extensions of their own bodies, weaving through defensive fire with precision that defied physics. They weren't dodging, not exactly. They were predicting. Every movement anticipated the next targeting solution, the next weapons burst, the next threat before it materialized. And their return fire was even more impressive. The weapons on their strike craft synchronized with the rotating shield frequencies of the station, each shot timed perfectly to pass through the defensive barriers. It was like watching someone thread a needle while riding a roller coaster, except they were doing it hundreds of times per second. First wave hitting the outer platforms, Captain Huang reported from her command position, neutralizing defensive emplacements Alpha through Gamma. Explosions blossomed across the station's outer hull as the enhanced humans systematically dismantled the Krath'nar defenses. The enemy fleet scrambled to respond, capital ships moving to intercept, but the human strike craft were already inside their engagement envelope, too close for the massive vessels to track effectively. "This is insane," I muttered, watching a human pilot execute a maneuver that involved flying through an explosion to avoid incoming fire. "This is warfare," Reeves replied, suddenly standing beside me. When had he gotten here? "The Krath'nar fight with overwhelming force and brutal efficiency. We fight with precision, adaptability, and a complete willingness to attempt the impossible. Your pilots are taking unnecessary risks. They are taking calculated risks. There's a difference. Every move they make is based on real-time tactical analysis, threat assessment, and probability calculations that their enhanced minds are processing faster than traditional computers." A Krath'nar capital ship exploded as 3 human strike craft coordinated a simultaneous attack on its reactor core, their weapons fire finding the single vulnerable point in its armor. "Second wave deploying," Torres announced. This group wasn't in strike craft, they were in boarding pods, small armored shells that shot toward the station like bullets. The Krath'nar point defense systems tried to intercept them, but the pods were moving in patterns that made no sense, zigzagging in ways that should have torn them apart from the G-forces. Should have, but didn't. "How are your people surviving those acceleration profiles?" I asked. "The human body can't withstand those forces." "The human body couldn't," Reeves corrected. "But the protocol reinforced their skeletal structure, enhanced their cardiovascular system, and modified their inner ear fluid to handle extreme motion. They can survive accelerations that would turn a normal human into paste." The boarding pods slammed into the station hull, shaped charges blowing through the armor, and enhanced humans poured out into the Krath'nar stronghold. Watched through helmet cameras as they moved through corridors, engaging enemy forces with the same terrifying efficiency they displayed at the battle station. But this time, they were facing the full might of the Krath'nar military. These weren't just warriors, they were elite troops, the best the alien civilization had to offer, and they were defending their command structure with everything they had. The battle inside the station was brutal. I watched enhanced humans fall, saw them take wounds that should have been fatal but somehow keep fighting. The protocol had enhanced their healing capabilities too, it seemed. Injuries that would have incapacitated a normal soldier were mere inconveniences to these transformed warriors. Sergeant Willis led a team through what appeared to be a Krath'nar barracks, engaging dozens of enemies in close-quarters combat. I watched in horrified fascination as he quite literally punched through an alien's chest armor, his enhanced strength sufficient to rupture their natural carapace. "Approaching primary objective," Captain Huang reported. She was leading another team toward the station's command center, fighting through increasingly heavy resistance. Encountering elite guard units. The elite guards were even larger than standard Krath'nar warriors, their armor more advanced, their weapons more deadly. They moved with practiced coordination, setting up defensive positions and preparing to repel the human intrusion. It wasn't enough. Huang's team hit them like a tactical storm, flowing through the defensive lines with movements that seemed choreographed but were actually the result of their neural networking ability. Each soldier knew where every other soldier would be, knew what they would do, and acted in perfect synchronization. "Command center breached," Huang announced, and I could hear weapons fire in the background of her transmission. "Engaging command staff now." This was the critical moment. If they could eliminate or capture the Krath'nar leadership in this sector, it would throw the enemy forces into disarray. But if they failed, if the command staff escaped or reinforcements arrived, the entire operation would collapse. "Vex, I need you to see something," Reeves said, directing my attention to a specific monitor. It showed a Krath'nar commander, a massive alien covered in ceremonial armor that denoted high rank. He was fighting personally, defending the command center with a ferocity that even his own species found remarkable. And standing across from him was Lieutenant Torres. They circled each other in the command center, other combatants giving them space as if recognizing this as something significant. The Krath'nar commander spoke, his words translated by my equipment. "You are not natural. You are abominations, violations of biological law." Torres laughed. Actually laughed. And it was a sound without humor. Coming from a species that tried to genocide us. That's almost funny. You wanted to exterminate humanity because we threatened you, because deep down you knew we had the potential to surpass you. Well, congratulations, you were right, the commander charged, moving with speed that belied his massive size. But Torres was faster. She sidestepped his attack, her combat knife finding the weak points in his armor with surgical precision. The fight lasted maybe 30 seconds before the Krath'nar commander fell, his biology finally failing him. "Command staff neutralized," Torres reported, her voice steady despite having just killed one of the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. "Securing the command center now. All teams, begin extraction," Reeves ordered. "We have achieved primary and secondary objectives. Time to leave before they bring in reinforcements." The withdrawal was almost as chaotic as the assault. Enhanced humans fought their way back to their boarding pods and strike craft, carrying wounded comrades, demolishing critical systems as they went. The remaining Krath'nar forces tried to stop them, but the aliens were confused, disorganized, their command structure decapitated. I watched the last strike craft dock with the Defiance, watched the ship's engines flare as it prepared to jump to faster-than-light speeds. The Krath'nar fleet was pursuing, but they were too slow, too disorganized to catch us. "Jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the navigator counted down, and reality twisted as we escaped into faster-than-light travel. The Defiance emerged in a safe system 3 hours later. The medical bay was flooded with wounded soldiers, though remarkably few had been killed. Out of 1,632 enhanced humans who'd participated in the assault, only 73 had died. Against 50,000 Krath'nar defenders and a full fleet contingent, that was a statistical miracle, or it would have been, if I believed in miracles anymore. Reeves found me in the observation deck again, where I'd been compiling my report for the Council. The data was overwhelming, the implications staggering. Humanity had just proved they could strike at the heart of Krath'nar military power with minimal forces and achieve total victory. "Your report going to get me court-martialed?" he asked, sitting down next to me. "Probably," I admitted. "You violated approximately 700 Council regulations, initiated an unauthorized military action, and risked escalating the conflict to a level that could destabilize the entire sector. But we won." "But you won," I conceded, "and that changes everything." He nodded slowly, looking out at the stars. "The Krath'nar started this war thinking humanity was weak, thinking we'd be easy to eliminate. They based that assessment on watching us fight conventionally, playing by established rules. What they didn't understand is that humans don't stay conventional for long. We adapt, we evolve, we do whatever it takes to survive. The protocol changed you," I said, "changed all of you into something the galaxy has never seen before." "The protocol unlocked what was already there," he corrected. "Humanity has always been like this. We just usually hide it behind civilization and culture and all the nice things that make us seem harmless. But when someone threatens our survival, when someone tries to exterminate us, that's when you see what humans really are underneath." "And what are you underneath?" Reeves was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Survivors, predators, the species that crawled out of caves and conquered a planet that looked at the stars and decided we belonged there too. The Krath'nar thought they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They are about to learn they are wrong." Over the next few days, reports started coming in from across the sector. The Krath'nar forces were in chaos, their command structure disrupted, their fleets operating without unified leadership. Human colonies that had been under siege suddenly found the pressure lifting as enemy forces withdrew to regroup and reassess. And the Council was absolutely losing their collective minds. I received approximately 400 urgent transmissions demanding I explain what had happened, how a single human vessel had managed to cripple an entire sector's worth of enemy forces. I answered them as honestly as I could, explaining the protocol, the enhancement process, the capabilities of the transformed soldiers. The responses ranged from horror to fascination to outright calls for humanity to be censured for violating biological modification treaties that I was reasonably sure didn't actually apply to self-modification. But underneath all the political noise there was a current of something else. Relief. Hope. The understanding that maybe, just maybe, this war wasn't unwinnable after all. Observer Vaxthari, Torres said, finding me in the mess hall where I'd been attempting to consume nutrients while processing the diplomatic fallout. We are holding a memorial service for the fallen. Commander thought you might want to attend. I did want to attend. These humans, enhanced or not, had fought and died for their species' survival. That deserved recognition regardless of the political complications. The service was held in the Defiance's main cargo bay, hastily converted into a memorial space. 73 names were projected on the wall, each representing a soldier who died either in the protocol transformation or in combat afterward. The enhanced humans stood in formation, silent and respectful, as Reeves spoke. We came into this war facing extinction, he said, his voice carrying through the space. The Krath'nar were stronger, more numerous, more established. They had every advantage except one. They weren't human. They didn't understand that humanity doesn't accept extinction. We fight. We adapt. We become whatever we need to become to survive. These 73 people gave their lives to prove that point. They volunteered for a procedure that had a chance of killing them, fought in battles that should have killed them, and sacrificed everything so that humanity could continue. We honor them not with grief, but with the commitment to ensure their sacrifice meant something. The assembled soldiers echoed his words, a unified response that sent chills through my exoskeleton. These weren't just soldiers anymore, they were something new, something the galaxy hadn't seen before, a collective of enhanced individuals who retained their humanity while transcending its limitations. After the service, as the enhanced humans dispersed to various duties, I approached Reeves one last time before finalizing my report. What happens now? I asked. The Council will want answers. Explanations, probably restrictions on the protocol's use. Let them want, Reeves replied. The protocol is out there now. Other human military units are already requesting it. Within 6 months, we will have 10,000 enhanced soldiers. Within a year, 50,000. The Krath'nar tried to exterminate humanity and instead forced us to evolve past our limitations. You are going to win this war. We are going to end it, he corrected. There's a difference. Winning means defeating the enemy. Ending it means making sure this never happens again, making sure no species ever looks at humanity and thinks we are easy prey. By becoming the thing other species fear. By becoming what we have always been, he said firmly, survivors. I transmitted my final report to the Council 3 days later. It was comprehensive, detailed, and probably going to cause political upheaval that would last for decades. But it was also truthful, and truth was what the Council needed right now. The Krath'nar had started a war of extermination against humanity. In response, humanity had transformed itself, unlocked capabilities that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They'd lost half an army and made the other half immortal, not through mysticism or magic, but through biology and sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. As I prepared to transfer to a Council vessel for my return journey, Torres approached me one final time. Thank you for bearing witness, she said simply, for documenting what happened here. The galaxy needs to know. What I documented is going to terrify them, I replied. Enhanced humans who can coordinate like hive organisms, who can survive injuries that would kill any other species, who can learn and adapt faster than traditional evolution allows. You have made humanity into something unprecedented. We have made humanity into survivors, she said, echoing Reeves. Everything else is just details. I left the Defiance with mixed feelings. As a Council observer, I was supposed to remain objective, to document events without emotional investment. But after witnessing what I'd seen, after watching humans transform themselves rather than accept extinction, objectivity seemed impossible. 6 months later, my predictions proved accurate. The enhanced soldier program expanded rapidly, with volunteers from every human military division requesting the protocol. The casualty rate during transformation dropped to below 10% as the process was refined, and across the sector human forces began pushing back against the Krath'nar with devastating effectiveness. The war didn't end overnight. The Krath'nar were too entrenched, too proud to surrender easily. But the momentum had shifted. Every battle saw human forces adapting, learning, becoming more effective. And every defeat pushed more Krath'nar commanders to question whether this war was worth continuing. 2 years after the assault on Theta Proxima, the Krath'nar High Command requested peace negotiations, not from a position of strength, but from growing awareness that continuing the war meant their eventual defeat. Humanity had proved they couldn't be exterminated, and more than that, they'd proved that attempting to exterminate them only made them stronger. I attended the negotiations as council observer, watching as human and Krath'nar representatives hammered out treaties, reparations, and boundaries. The Krath'nar delegation included several survivors from Theta Proxima, including warriors who'd fought against Torres and the enhanced humans. They approached the negotiations with visible wariness, like prey animals dealing with predators, which in a sense, they were. Commander Jack Reeves attended as the human military representative, along with Lieutenant Torres and several other enhanced soldiers. They carried themselves with quiet confidence, the assurance of people who'd faced annihilation and survived. The Council acknowledges the unique circumstances that led to humanity's biological enhancement program, the lead Council representative stated, reading from a prepared statement. While the methods employed fell outside established protocols, the results have brought about a cessation of hostilities that diplomatic measures failed to achieve. Translation: you broke all the rules, but we are not going to punish you because it worked. Humanity requests formal recognition of our enhanced military forces, Reeves stated. We didn't choose to become what we are now, we were forced to evolve or die. But now that we have changed, we are not going back. The Council representatives conferred briefly before responding. Recognition is granted, provided humanity agrees to share the protocol technology with the Council for evaluation and potential implementation among allied species. Denied, Reeves said flatly. The protocol is human technology, developed using human research and human volunteers. We are not handing it over to the Council or anyone else. I watched the Council representatives react with varying degrees of outrage, but Reeves continued before they could object. However, we are willing to assist allied species in developing their own enhancement programs, sharing our research and lessons learned. The protocol specifically works with human biology. Trying to adapt it to other species would be dangerous at best and genocidal at worst. That was actually a reasonable compromise, though it meant humanity would maintain a significant military advantage for the foreseeable future. The Council didn't like it, but they also weren't in a position to argue. Humanity had won their war against extermination. They weren't about to surrender their strategic advantages now. The negotiations concluded with treaties that redrew boundaries, established reparations from the Krath'nar to human colonies, and created new protocols for conflict resolution. It wasn't perfect, but it was peace, and after 3 years of war that was enough. I filed my final report on the conflict 6 months after the treaties were signed. In it I detailed everything I'd witnessed, from the initial catastrophic battle that killed 2,000 humans to the protocol activation that transformed the survivors, from the impossible assault on Theta Proxima to the eventual peace negotiations. My conclusion was simple. Humanity had proven something fundamental about species survival. When faced with extinction, when pushed to the absolute edge, sentient species either collapsed or transcended. Humanity had chosen transcendence, had looked at their own biological limitations and decided those limitations were optional. The galaxy would never be the same. I returned to Council headquarters to find my report had caused exactly the upheaval I'd predicted. Half the Council wanted to sanction humanity for biological modification violations. The other half wanted to study the protocol for possible implementation, and a small but vocal minority wanted to preemptively strike human space before enhanced soldiers became too numerous to oppose. That last group was quietly reassigned to other duties after someone reminded them what happened to the last species that tried to exterminate humanity. 5 years after the protocol's first deployment, I received a transmission from Commander Reeves, now promoted to Admiral and commanding humanity's enhanced forces. He invited me to visit the memorial at the site of the original battle station, which had been rebuilt and converted into a training facility for new protocol candidates. I accepted, curious to see what humanity had built in the aftermath of their transformation. The station was impressive. Where once there had been wreckage and death, now there were training facilities, medical centers, and educational complexes. Thousands of humans moved through the corridors, some enhanced, others preparing for the protocol, all of them carrying themselves with that unique human confidence. Admiral Reeves met me at the docking bay, and I noticed immediately that he'd undergone the protocol himself. His movements had that same efficient grace as Torres and the others, his eyes carrying that faint blue glow. "You finally did it," I said. He nodded. "Couldn't ask people to do something I wasn't willing to do myself. Besides, command is easier when I can process tactical data at the same speed as my troops." He led me through the station, pointing out various improvements and modifications. The original protocol chambers were still there, preserved as a memorial but no longer in use. New facilities had been built with refined technology, higher success rates, better medical support. 94% survival rate now, Torres said, joining us at the memorial. She'd been promoted to colonel and was apparently running the training program. "We have nearly eliminated the mortality risk during transformation." "And the war?" I asked. "Over," Reeves replied. "The Krath'nar are abiding by the treaties. A few skirmishes here and there with fringe groups, but nothing major. Humanity is finally safe, because you made yourselves too dangerous to threaten. Because we proved we wouldn't accept extinction," he corrected. "The protocol, the enhanced soldiers, all of it was just tools we used to ensure our survival. The real weapon was human stubbornness, our refusal to die quietly." We stood at the memorial wall, looking at the names of those who died to make this possible. 412 names from the original protocol activation, 73 from the Theta Proxima assault, hundreds more who'd fallen in battles afterward. Was it worth it, I asked? All these lives, all this transformation, just to survive? Admiral Reeves looked at me, and there was something profound in his enhanced eyes. "Every life matters. Every death hurts. But survival isn't just about individuals. It's about species continuity, about ensuring that humanity has a future. These people gave their lives so that billions of others could continue existing. So yes, it was worth it. It had to be worth it because the alternative was extinction." I filed one final addendum to my report that night. In it, I noted that humanity had fundamentally altered the balance of power in the galaxy. They'd proven that biological limitations were negotiable, that evolution could be directed rather than waited upon, that survival was a choice rather than a circumstance. The Krath'nar had tried to eliminate what they saw as a threat. Instead, they'd forced humanity to become exactly what they'd feared, a species that refused to accept limits, that adapted faster than evolution should allow, that turned catastrophe into transformation. They'd lost half their army in a single battle, and in response they'd made the other half immortal. Not literally immortal, of course. Enhanced humans could still die, still be killed. But they'd achieved a form of immortality that mattered more. They'd ensured humanity's survival across generations, created a template for transformation that would echo through their species' future. And they'd proven, beyond any doubt, that humanity was here to stay. I closed my final report with a warning to the Council, one I knew they probably wouldn't heed but felt obligated to include anyway. Humanity has demonstrated that when pushed to the edge, they respond by transcending their limitations. Other species should note this carefully. The humans are no longer the soft, vulnerable newcomers they once appeared to be. They are predators now, enhanced and evolved, carrying the memory of near extinction like a scar across their collective psyche. Approach them with respect, engage them with honesty, and above all, never again mistake their kindness for weakness or their civilization for fragility. Humanity has shown us what they become when threatened with extinction. Let us ensure they never need to demonstrate it again. Admiral Reeves smiled when I showed him the warning. "Eloquent," he said. "Though I'd argue we were always predators, we just got better at it." "That's what concerns me," I replied. "Don't worry, Vex. Humanity doesn't want more war. We have seen enough death for several lifetimes. We just want to exist, to explore, to build our future in peace. But if threatened again..." His smile faded, replaced by something harder, something that reminded me exactly what enhanced humans were capable of. "Then the galaxy will learn that the protocol was just the beginning. Humanity doesn't just adapt to survive, we innovate, we improve, we become whatever we need to become. The Krath'nar forced us to evolve once. If someone else makes that mistake, well, I pity them." I left the memorial station with those words echoing in my mind. Humanity had won their war, achieved their survival, and transformed themselves in the process. The galaxy was different now, forever changed by what Commander Reeves and his enhanced soldiers had accomplished. They'd lost half an army in a single catastrophic battle, and in response they'd made the other half immortal through enhancement, adaptation, and sheer refusal to accept defeat. The universe had tried to eliminate humanity, Instead, it had created something new, something unprecedented, something that would echo through galactic history for millennia to come. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Krath'nar remembered their mistake, remembered what happened when you pushed humanity too far. They'd wanted to exterminate a species they viewed as weak. They'd created legends instead.